In 2005, I was working as a coach at Capital One in Richmond, Virginia. And at the time, I was pretty new to the whole coaching thing, and I had several years of experience with agile methods, but this was my first time really going out and officially helping other teams, not just my own, and doing so in a way that's what I was paid for. It was great. Now, I had some really transformative experiences there, some things that really, really solidified for me the power of teams, the power of agility, and some of the techniques that we use. I was working with another colleague, her name was Deborah, and at the time she was working with a different team to me. That team was having a lot of morale problems. It was really suffering. And she tried a whole bunch of different things to figure out what was going on, but unfortunately, she couldn't quite get to the bottom of it. And so she started to think, maybe the problem is me. Well, we designed a retrospective technique. Very simple technique to help us discover from the team if, in fact, the problem was Deborah, and that somehow the team just wasn't connecting with her as an agile coach. So the technique we designed was in some ways very simple, but the concept was to make sure that the participants had complete anonymity. So what did we do? Well, we asked every participant, every team member, to take 6 note cards, 3x5 note cards with lines. And everyone got a nice black Sharpie. And we asked people to take 3 of the note cards and use them to write down things that were going well or had gone well. And on the other 3, to write down things that were not so good, things that needed improvement, things that were bad, anything that they wanted to sort of bring out as a problem. Then, instead of having people put them up themselves or read them out, I was going to take them up, hold them in a stack, shuffle them up, and read them out in as sort of consistent and non-judgmental a tone of voice as I possibly could. So we designed this technique, Deborah and I, and there's a few other things that were important about it. So for example, before we started any writing or giving out cards, we made sure that we had the retrospective prime directive displayed and read out. This is a very important statement that helps to make sure that people feel psychological safety and that there isn't going to be any blame going on. Additionally, we were very clear about the purpose of me going in instead of Deborah. So, just to be transparent with the team that, hey, we think there might be this problem. We want to give you a chance to talk about it. And without, getting back to anyone about if you particularly have a problem. So we started the retrospective. I read the retrospective prime directive. Deborah wasn't there, just to be clear. It was just the team and me. And people were writing. Everyone was really writing a lot. I started collecting them as the cards as people finished them up. And at the end, I had a nice big thick stack of cards with some written in a fairly messy way, but I kind of pre-read them just to make sure that I could actually read them all out loud and it was going to be okay. So I shuffled them up, started reading them out loud. Many of them were what I would call normal retrospective feedback. Things like, our teamwork was good, or we solved this particular technical issue, or, whatever it happens to be, communication, etc. But fairly early on in reading them out, I came across one that I had never seen before in my life in a retrospective. And it specifically said, I really hate John's offensive jokes and stories. I'm like, oh boy. So I read it out. John sitting there, kind of looking a little nervous, but I kept going. Few others, normal, so to speak, and then another one about John's racist and sexist jokes, and another one by the time I got through the cards, it was clear that every other team member, no exceptions, every other team member had written down a card about John's completely inappropriate stories and anecdotes. So, as I'm doing this, I'm getting nervous. I mean, I'm a relatively new Agile coach. John, though, is turning bright red. He's looking obviously really upset. He's sitting right there in the team room. So, what happens? Well, pretty much as soon as I finish reading out the cards, John puts up his hand. He's like, can I say something? And so I was like, yep, go ahead. So John said, and I don't remember his exact words, but he basically said, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I really want to be part of this team. I'm going to try and change. Please help me. It was amazing. That team, almost in that instant, changed completely. You could feel this huge relief in the room. People started smiling, big grins on their faces. And, of course, after the retrospective was over, the team actually did some amazing things. They completely gelled. The morale problems went completely away. Now, there's a couple key things about this. Number one, first of all, creating that psychological safety, that anonymity was really important for that working. If you don't have that, so for example, if you had a manager in the room at the same time, there's no way that those things would have come out. It's just the team. And an external, impartial, in my case, a stranger facilitator for the retrospective. Another key point. This is the kind of behavior, John's behavior, that could get him fired. He wasn't, though. Why? Because the team gave him a chance. The transparency, the truthfulness, the honesty of that environment made it possible for him to say, I'm sorry. I had no idea. And of course, you know, there are still people who don't understand that for whatever reason. Now, this was 15 years ago, but anyway. And he did sincerely want to be part of the team and to try and change his behavior. And he did. So what could have happened, of course, there's a lot of bad things that could have happened. He could have reacted really badly and said something like, you're all idiots and I hate you and blah, 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 blah. And then probably he would have gotten reported to HR and he would have been fired. Probably. But even before that happened, someone could have talked to HR and him being fired without him even getting a chance. The retrospective is an opportunity for the team to self-manage. This is the key idea for Scrum Masters, to help your teams with retrospective techniques and concepts and creating a space, whether it's in person or virtual, where people can truly share what they need to share. That means safety, that means privacy, sometimes it means anonymity. It means that people need to be truthful, frank, honest, and be able to talk about some tough things. Now, not all my retrospectives went that well, don't get me wrong, but I just remember that one so well because it was so important. And I hope that you will have those kinds of experiences too.